Christmas Eve just a few days away, and churches everywhere will be presenting wonderful Christmas Eve services. One of my favorites out of the entire year. Joining us this morning is the interim pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Titusville, the Reverend Norma Prina Murphy, and Nathaniel Lick, the musical director at the First Presbyterian Church. Good morning. Welcome. Good to see you guys this morning. This is just one of, I think, the most beautiful services of the entire year, and I'm just curious your thoughts on this particular service compared to the others.
Well, I don't preach on Christmas Eve. I let the scriptures and the carols and the anthems do the preaching, and we just have traditional lessons and carols, and it's, I think, one of the most looked for services of the year.
Is part of that just the beauty of not only the message, but seeing families come together and seeing, maybe families coming back to a community and coming back to their home church?
Yes, there's always a sense of reunion about that service.
Nat, for you, what's the preparation like for this service?
Exhausting.
Yeah.
It really is. I spend a lot of time in the Christmas season, and I mean I'm down to really working for this church now, only, and I spend quite a bit of time, late hours, in the office getting ready. When you're putting a service together like this, you want it to be something that folks are going to feel familiar with. You want different songs that may be new but have a familiar feel to them. So people are uplifted, people are joyful, people are contemplative. You got to cover a whole slew of things in maybe 4 choir anthems. And it's not really as easy as some folks think. You don't just plop down and say, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it'll be what it'll be. Right. I can't. So.
And there's a lot of things I want to get into. I want to look back at this year because for you and the church, it's been very busy with a lot of extracurricular events musically that have been wonderful. And you just came off an event this past Friday. We'll talk a little bit about that. Norma, for you just announced that you'll be retiring.
Yes.
Congratulations on your career.
Thank you.
And I'm sure now the Christmas Eve service will be your last service?
Yes, it will be.
Is that going to be extra special for you?
Of course. Especially my time with the children. I will enjoy that and miss that. And one of the things I always do when I arrive, my first service is to walk in with a walking stick. And it leans up on the chancel by my chair on the pulpit for the duration of my service to mark that I'm on a journey, and this is one chapter in that journey. And so on Christmas Eve, being my last service, at the end of the service, I will walk out with my walking stick.
Oh, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
That'll be tough. Well, congratulations again. And you speak of a journey, and Nat, I think as you were saying, you're taking people on a journey that night musically.
Yes.
So that does take a lot of preparation, doesn't it, to kind of build up to that moment where you guys do Silent Night?
It most certainly does. I'm so thankful to have Norma there. She coordinates the hymns. We talk about it, but she coordinates the hymns, and it's really helpful to have someone who has a music background and a liturgical music background who understands, what it takes to build a service up to the point of Silent Night. Because I didn't realize, I know this sounds bad, I didn't watch the Christmas Eve service from last year until like a week ago.
Oh.
And I didn't realize how beautiful it actually was during Silent Night. I didn't realize what I was playing during Silent Night because I was just in the moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, is that? because my first thought was that me playing? I don't think I can do that. But it was like, wow, what a moment that was. And the whole church goes dark, and the candles are lit, and everyone's singing Silent Night, and there's a Christmas blessing right in the middle, and the key changes, and it turns it into a whole new song. And it's just really,
I've seen people cry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the message, it's that moment, it's everything, and just the stillness in a world where everything is rush, especially this time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rush. To take all of that and throw it out and just focus on what this season is about.
I truly think that's it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something behind it. I'd say probably 80% of people maybe have some experience with a church. And usually most people that might even be unchurched, their experience with a church is Christmas, or their experience with a church is Easter.
In the beginning,
and so they'll hear Silent Night and be overcome with emotion because it's just so memorable for them. It takes them back to a certain point in time, because Silent Night's a universal song. Everyone knows it. It's written in 30 different languages. So I think that's one that can reach out to anybody.
And then as the song progresses, it gets darker and darker in the
progressively
sanctuary?
darker, but the candles actually light it.
Right.
So it's really it's neat to see. Now this building was never actually candle lit. It's always been gas lit or electrical. But it's really, really neat for me, being into architecture, to think of the old church buildings where all they did was candlelit services. There was nothing else. And in these mass buildings, how that light can gather and fill the space, much like, we use it as a representation for the light of Christ.
This year happens to mark the 200th anniversary of Silent Night. And I think that makes it extra special.
When you're in that moment, Nat, you kind of said this, you didn't realize till you went back and watched it, but Norma, for you, do you understand that moment when you look out and see all of this?
Oh, yes. If we're not touched ourselves by the worship, how can we expect anyone else to be touched by it? So that's really how I look at planning worship.
And the two trees, I think you guys did that last year.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Harkens back to about 1976. I think 1976 is the last time.
Yeah.
And in 1976, they actually touched the lights.
Really? So this is like a Rockefeller type of...
Yeah.
I was instructed no to that this year.
Yeah, ease back into that. Well, when you look at this past year, Nat, we'll start with you musically. You've been able to do some pretty amazing things. Musically,
it has been a huge year for the church. Something that I guess had been talked about before my time was doing more concerts, because we have the facilities. We have wonderful facilities, excellent instruments. We're very blessed to have these things. Some donated, and maintenance, actually, like on our grand, is donated. And we have the facilities, why not use them? And I said it in an article for the paper. I said, the church is called to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and give drink to the thirsty. But I said, I think we're also called to nurture and encourage God-given gifts, musical and otherwise. I think that's one of our jobs as a church, is to show that these gifts are not of us. These gifts are of God. And how can we use them in a positive setting? So we've done... It actually started last year with the Soul Hope concert. I brought some friends in, and we had a wonderful fundraiser concert, raised about $700 or $1,000 for Soul Hope, and we were able to send shoes, jean shoes, homemade shoes, to ailing children. And then we did the Great Hymns of the Faith, which... a lot of folks didn't think would go over because it was something that was so new. We've had community choirs here, but we haven't done something that was literally open to 35 churches. And sure
And
enough,
that's the thing. You reached out to other churches and
Yes.
asked for their choir members to participate.
yes,
And that's a lot of people.
we welcomed congregation members and choir members, and I think the final count was 38 or 40.
And you
we
fit
had-
everybody in there.
Miraculously, we didn't have to take the dividers out or anything. Yeah, we fit everyone in there. People were shocked. People were shocked when we, like we talked about designing a service. It was supposed to be like a worship service in commemoration of the 130th anniversary of our sanctuary. And so I wanted that first note of the first song to just drive right through people's chests. And we did the Ode to Joy that I arranged with a trumpet introduction, and then the choir hit in unison, everyone on the same note. And you could see it in the video. People were like, because it was something that they hadn't heard before. I mean, this church used to, and we still have a very good choir. We used to have a very large choir of about 30. So sound like this, that the biggest choir the church had was 32. So sound like this hadn't been heard before in Titusville or in this church. So it was a pretty impressive thing. And then we moved on to my mind just went blank. What was the next concert we did?
The praise band?
That's right. We welcomed the Titusville Ladies Conference musicians. After their conference, I've been involved as the tech director for 2 years. Phenomenal musicians, 3 excellent vocalists, wonderful band members that cycle.
And they don't play together that often.
They rarely play together. And I had no idea. They come in and rehearse for 6 weeks, and I thought, let's open this up to the community. Let's bring everyone in for an evening of praise and worship. And it was very nice. It was considerably well attended, better than I thought. Again, I think we had about 80 or 90 there that evening. Typical folks sitting under the balcony all the way in the back because, you couldn't get close. That would be too much. And then our last concert that we did was Piano and Pipes this last Friday. We didn't have, the Arts Council did a ballet this year instead of the Pittsburgh Symphony Brass. And that's wonderful. I'm glad that they're presenting this, but I think some folks really wanted a Christmas musical or something like that.
Sure.
Because there's not too much of that goes on in the area. And so I said, hey, Piano and Pipes, we have the organ, we have the piano, and we have some excellent vocalists. Let's do it. Why not? And sure enough, I was rehearsing putting Believe It or Not, Silent Night, the last song together, 6:15. The concert started at 7. We were just getting together to throw it together. Let's make sure we have this song in there. And somebody came in and said, can you unlock the doors? There's people outside. I said, what do you mean there's people outside? And I went out and there were people lined up on Franklin Street. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. I went back in at 6:45 to grab my shoes from the organ, and I walked out in not together at all, thinking there'll probably be 20 people here, all the people that were waiting at the door. There was about 250 people in the sanctuary, and I think by the time we were done, with folks, stragglers coming in, we had at least 300.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It was wonderful. They were ushering them into the seats, and I think as we ended with Silent Night, my sound system, it's all wireless, disconnected from the Wi-Fi for the last song, so we ended up doing Silent Night, no mics, no sound, just piano and 4 vocalists, 3 of us classically trained, and it was really something.
It really was a silent night.
And there were tears, and that was the first time I saw it. When I looked up and looked down the aisle, we invited people to sing on the last one, and folks ended up standing, and I spoke a little bit after the last verse of Silent Night. Wow. It was overwhelming. It really was.
You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television in Armstrong and listening to it on the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. Norman, when you look back at your time here, when you see stuff like that happening, do you just look back and say, yeah, we did good?
Oh, yes. Definitely have moved in a good direction, reaching out more to the community and using our facility more. We've tried to intentionally do that. We've increased our mission aspects and have started the Fifth Friday program, offering free dinners on the fifth Friday of the month when they occur. Happens 4 times a year.
Yeah, the sixth Friday thing never really took off.
No.
Good intentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do believe 1 or 2 of them are going to be on a 4th Friday next year because of holidays.
Okay.
But that will be well advertised in advance and folks will know.
When you come in as the interim pastor, is there at least in your mind, a list of goals you try to achieve, or do you evaluate each situation sort of independently to figure out what you want to accomplish?
There are 5 basic goals of an interim period, but they're very broad and can be addressed in many, many different ways. And how you address them needs to be assessed at each church and customized to that congregation. So I tend to come in and just try to get to know people and the system for at least 3 months before I really start implementing anything.
As you prepare to say goodbye on Monday night, have you sort of gone through and said, yeah, we sort of check-marked everything that I wanted to do? And
Yes, I think so. There's always work yet to be done, and you never complete everything fully. So I'm not disheartened at all by that. Have to leave something for Von Smith to do.
And hopefully we can have him on sometime in January. Maybe Nat, you
Yeah.
could come back with him and welcome
absolutely.
him. And he'll never say this, but when you work with folks like Nathaniel and others, that has to make you feel good that as you retire, there's going to be a future there, and somebody like Nat, who's extremely talented, is going to be there to continue on.
Oh, yes. It's been just a joy working
And let's
with
keep
Nat.
talking like he's not even here.
I'll just listen.
No, it has been a real joy. He is liturgically savvy and knowledgeable, and that has been a blessing to work with. I have worked with other musicians who have not been in the past, and that's a struggle. But this has just been a good partnership, I think.
Will you look back at this time and say this was a great way to end?
I think so. I think it's been a good ending, yeah.
Now, we won't mention where you're going to be retiring to, but we're hoping that the place you're going, there's a certain sports team there. We're hoping that they'll continue and make the playoffs this year.
Oh, yes, we certainly hope so. Both in hockey and in football.
Have you written baseball off altogether? Or?
Pretty much. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's always too bad. But
Yeah.
Well, Nat, you mentioned just the relationship and somebody who has a music background like that. And Norma mentioned Von Smith coming in. Have you had a chance to talk much with him? Or
I have. We talked quite a bit the day he was, would it be elected or confirmed?
Yes.
We talked quite a bit the day he was confirmed, and we've conversed via email. Very open to things musically. Very interested to hear different plans. So I think the future looks very good. Especially for the music program.
And we'll see more concerts in 2019 like we did this year?
Definitely. I think May 19th is tentative for Great Hymns. So getting that out there to all the choir members who may be watching. Yeah.
And this time might be a little easier, right? Now that everybody's experienced it and understands what it is.
Now that we're into it once, the second time should be quite a bit easier, yeah.
All right. Christmas Eve service. Of course, if folks want to come this Sunday, the doors are always open.
Absolutely.
All right. And what time is service on Sunday?
Service on Sunday is at 11, And service on Monday night is at 7 with special prelude music beginning at 6:30.
All right.
Prelude music you don't want to miss. We actually,
Right.
this year's a little different. We have guests coming from other churches.
Oh,
this
really?
year because, really the Christmas Eve service isn't a Presbyterian service. It's a service of lessons and carols, open to everyone. And so we do have some friends coming in from churches inside and outside the area, joining the choir, participating in the prelude.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the rumor is eventually you're going to do a Sean Carey song from the First United Methodist Church.
That's correct.
But not until he plays it
Not
first.
until he does it first on Christmas Eve, and then
Right.
we'll look at it after. Yeah.
And we didn't get to talk, but you wrote a song earlier this year that was played, which was amazing.
Yeah. The Easter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Will we hear that again?
Maybe.
Not for this service, but
Christmas
this
Eve,
spring.
absolutely. We'll just jumble it all up.
Well, Merry Christmas, folks. Have a great holiday season, and thank you so much for all that you guys do.
Oh,
You
you're
too.
welcome.
Thank you.